Hey kinfolk, so today's video is going to be a commentary video, and it's going to be a very new thing that I'm going to start up, and periodically I'm going to talk about a subject that I have an opinion on, and you have every right, and I very much would like to engage with you guys about my opinions and whatnot, and leave your own opinion for or against, or you know, if you want to shed some more information to this, that would be perfectly helpful. And of course, feel free to like or dislike it, and there's going to be no retributions whatsoever from me. My only issue is that I want you guys to treat each other with the dignity that you would like to be treated with. And that means that I don't want to hear any name calling, and I don't want to have any labels on people, things like that. You are X, or you know, I don't want to have any of those you are literally Hitler kind of people. None of that stuff. That doesn't help anybody. And once you start name calling and you start using threats, that's the other thing. I don't want to hear any threats. Once you start going there, then the discussion is over and people are getting closed off and nothing really gets done. Nobody comes to an agreement or some sort of compromise. So yeah, that's basically that in a nutshell. And hey, if you guys thought that what I said was helpful or interesting, then go ahead and hit my support pages, my Ko-Fi, my Patreon, and my Etsy. All of those go towards buying this kind of camera setup that you guys are seeing right now, and buying better gear and getting some really cool camera gear. I've got some plans where I'm going to want to get some more action cameras to where we can go into a full scale, you know, thousands of people battle with some really cool camera gear and some interesting lighting and really cool stuff that I think you guys would really enjoy. So, but I can't achieve that on my own, so you got to hit up those support pages, and every dollar counts, and it all goes towards the channel. So without further ado, let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of what I'm commenting on. Magic. I hate magic. I just hate it. First off, like any kind of film or TV show, book, what have you, magic is always a lazy plot device. The writers or whoever came up with the idea just want to get the people past a certain problem, and they just wave their little magic wand or their little sci-fi device that has no real science behind it. They just wave it around, and like all of a sudden the problems go away. They get past the aliens, or the heroes get past the evil demigod to get into the underworld, or whatever. You know, it's just silly, it's cheap, and there's no real solution. No creative solution, there's no plot twist, there's no interesting sacrifice. It's just like, okay, we're going to do this little thing and that's it. You know, now let's get on with the rest of the story. And you rob your audience and your readers, whomever, of a more interesting plot and interesting solutions and ideas, and those little aha moments of like, oh, that's how they got past it. And so generally that segues into LARP, and it's generally really cheap. There's very little investment that I've seen in most LARPs for Magic, to where there's very little in-game time that you have to get, you know, build character credits or whatever to put towards to buy this skill, this spell, and then in order to use it. And it's just a real quick boom, I'm going to throw a packet, or I'm going to say a little verse, and then the person's gone, and then that's it. There's no real struggle. It's just there's very little investment. And likewise, there's very little garb investment, there's very little prop investment. Now, that's not all LARPs, but most of them that I'm seeing, that it's like that. And it's unfortunate that, you know, not just plot, but players could too also invest a bit more into Magic, but I just regularly don't see it, and I would love to see more of that. Likewise, so say the investment that somebody has to invest in becoming like a physical combatant is significantly higher. You have to spend 6 months to a year to make armor sometimes, or you know, hundreds of dollars into making or buying armor. All this stuff takes a lot of investment from the player in order to get that. Not just that, to fit the armor for yourself, and that's going to take time. To train in the armor, that's going to take time and a lot of effort. And it's just, and then say that person with the armor comes and fights against, like, one-on-one with the wizard. The wizard just has to throw a packet, say a thing, and then the other guy's gone. Wiped out. And that segues into the other problem I have with it. It's almost always overpowered. to where somebody can invest just a handful of months into getting this skill, and then all they got to do is just throw this thing, and this other person who spent years, or not years, but possibly a year into getting this armor and training and everything to get to that point, and is completely taken out. And to me, there's a huge disparity in the time and effort that's put into it. So say a person wants to, brain fart. The person who actually did all the work to get the armor and, you know, the whole kit together and train in it, he's making the game look better in general. Like, his armor looks good. People that are watching the fight or are fighting alongside him, they appreciate the effort. It makes the club or the LARP itself look really good. People who are watching from a distance, or people who are watching a video of that LARP, you're going to point out the guys that aren't, they're not putting in an effort, and it's very obvious. And you can see the guys that are putting in the effort because they blend in. They look like they're a part of the environment in that storyline. And so most garb requirements that I've seen for Magic users is relatively low by comparison. And so there's no real benefit. There's no struggle with it. Like, the person who made the armor has to invest a lot of he has to struggle through that to get to that point, whereas the Magic user doesn't. Like, he doesn't have to do as much. And quite frankly, when the interaction happens, there's very little struggle. He just throws a packet in net, that's it, he walks off. And he kind of cheapens that win. It's a cheap win. And quite frankly, nobody's going to talk about it. It's just going to be like, meh. Like, it might not even remember it. But if there was a real struggle, there was a real fight, yeah, people would talk about it. There would be something to, remember. There would be some sort of emotional connection to that moment. And again, you're kind of robbing your players by having that into your game system. And the other thing is, there's no symbology, there's no metaphors or catharsis, there's nothing that you can emotionally attach yourself to. I can't just wave a wand and get my problems to go away, and neither can you guys. Some people can just throw money at the problem, but they still have to sacrifice something. Quite frankly, there's very little sacrifice from Magic users. There's no resource sacrifice. There's very, very little things that you have to do in order to do these things. And again, they were talking about generalities, and your game might be different, and I haven't experienced that game, but from what my 30 years of LARPing, I gotta say, I haven't seen it. And I have, but there are very few and very far between. So let's say that. So, and again, it's like there's nothing I can empathize with the character that can just wave their wand and their problems go away, their cars are fixed, or they wave their wand and a terminal illness is gone, and things like that. And I understand the need for it, because life in general is hard, and it's nice to have wins. But it's nice to really struggle and win. Now, the more you struggle with a given thing, and then the sweeter that victory is when you actually win. And again, it kind of goes back to, you have to let people struggle. You can't just give them the win every single time. And quite frankly, you shouldn't really do it at all, because most of life is difficult. There is a difficulty in just going to work every day and putting in those hours, and then, putting in all that money that you've earned towards paying bills, getting out of debt, and whatnot. And with Magic, there's none of that. It's just, it doesn't help anybody. Now, the only people that I would say it does help are people who are differently abled and can't or won't fight. They have serious problems with combat. And so it gives these folks an option to where they can still compete on the same level as everybody else. And I love that. I've seen that with certain aspects of like LARPs I've been to, where they can just engage into the game, and they have a means to be a hero, where in real life they are just not seen that way. And every day is a struggle for these folks, and giving them a Magic, it helps them, and it helps them get through and giving a win. It's a good metaphor for like life, and you can achieve things in LARP that are just way too difficult, or just almost insurmountable in real life, and you can use that in LARP. I've seen this a few times in other LARPs where Magic has done extremely well, and I would love to see more of that. Over in, I want to say Domnoni Chronicles or Outlander, something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but it's in the UK. Go ahead and leave it down in the comments if you guys know. But one priest or somebody had to make a sacrifice in order to talk to a particular god or dark god, demon, whatever. And it had 3 slaves where they had to drown them. So this guy had to be in this little pen of this horse pen, and he had to wrestle like 3 guys in order to drown them, pretend drown, role play drowning, in order to speak with this person. So there had to be a certain level of real physical effort in order to pull this thing off. And even then, plot, I think at the time, we're like, maybe you will, maybe you won't, we'll see. And there was kind of like, it was a gamble either way. So you could have wasted effort and these people's lives for nothing. And so there was some sacrifice. There was like physical people, like NPCs had to be sacrificed for this thing. And the other time I've seen it is like this particular priest, I think, had an ability where they could use a wind kind of spell where it knocks everybody back around him like 20 feet. But he can only use that once, and for the entire event. For like a 3 or 4 day event, that's it. He doesn't have anything else in reserve. He can't throw a packet or what have you. He has weapons, but that's it. So he was very, very limited. It wasn't overpowered at all. It basically just pushed everybody back and bought him some space in order to do what he needed to do. I have seen in other options, in Lands of Exile here in North Carolina, where I think the players were able to get into this underworld where dead NPCs and PCs could be, where other players can come in and settle some unresolved issues and tie up some loose ends and talk with them. But the PCs, they had to pay a serious price for it. Like, they had to have a lot of resources in order to pay into this. I think it was like basically, I think maybe half of everybody's resources to get into this. So that's some serious investment that cost something, and it added a ton of plot and storyline and catharsis to these characters and these people that paid to be here. And so that's generally the idea of that, where I think Magic should be. It should have to be expensive. There has to be a struggle to obtain it. It cannot be overpowered, and most of the time it is. And third is it has to have some sort of emotional connection, some sort of symbolic, metaphorical, or empathetic connection to real life. And with those 3 things, I think Magic could be something that I could definitely get behind. But again, 99% of the time, you don't really see that stuff. But anyway, those are my thoughts. So what are your thoughts? Leave it down in the comment below. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Be sure to share it with other folks so they can weigh in on the situation and give their opinions and their stories and things like that, and really drive this conversation along. And yeah, I'm really interested in what you guys have to hear, what you guys have to say, and I think what you have to say is valuable. So that's all I got for you today. That's all I've got for you today, nerds. I'm going to send you home with a be humble, be helpful, and be honorable. Thanks for watching.